Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Premier Injuries Daily Update. Of course, it's Friday, and of course, it's Ben 10, but we've heard from 16, yes, 1-6 Premier League managers already. So the chances of me being able to squeeze every update within that time frame are slim to none. Now, before I go in to today's press conference update, a couple just to wrap up from yesterday. We hadn't heard from Graham Potter when I recorded Thursday's daily update. So there were no fresh injury concerns from the 3-0 defeat at the Etihad. Leandro Trossard, he was absent from the game against Manchester City, but that was a 24-hour sickness bug, so he did return to light training on Thursday, which puts him in contention. Shane Duffy, he's training again, not with the squad. That's a thigh problem, so he won't be considered, but elsewhere, nothing major. Adam Webster, he could come into that team. He's had 2 cameo performances from the bench following his return from a protracted groin issue. Again, he's back in contention. I wouldn't be surprised if he came in to that starting 11. Now, we'll kick things off at Carrow Road. That's where we heard from Dean Smith first up this morning. Now, Lucas Roop, he suffered a training ground problem, pain in the back of his knee. Now, it doesn't appear to be too serious, but it'll certainly keep him out of this one. Brandon Williams comes back into contention after missing the game against his parent club. There's a big question mark over Kenny McLean. He fractured his toe last time out. Fingers crossed if he comes through the session on Friday and he's happy. Dean Smith said he would be included in the squad. Elsewhere, Pierre Lees-Milieu, that was cramp that forced him off last week. Joshua Sargent, we know that he had his protective cast removed from his ankle last week. He's been involved in light training. This game will come too soon. I think it's Aston Villa next week, so he is on target to play in that one. Elsewhere, we heard from Newcastle. Eddie Howe was next up. No fresh injury concerns. Of course, we've had back-to-back wins, unchanged team midweek, but Eddie Howe may look to freshen his side. Of course, would be our 3rd game in a matter of 6 days. So there's a few players who come in, maybe Javi Malquillo on the right-hand side for Emil Kraft is certainly one. Joe Willock, he's been waiting in the wings after sitting out in recent matches. Miguel Almiron, he'll be one that'll be hoping to retain his place. Of course, he came in for the injured Ryan Fraser. Now, we do know that Ryan Fraser suffered a hamstring issue. Initially, that was dismissed as a fairly minor concern, but we had a second opinion and he went for further imaging this week. Now, that's come back. It's fairly good news in the fact that it isn't too serious. However, he still faces a race against time to play again this season. Fortunately for Newcastle, we've hit that magical 40-point mark now, so it looks as if not mathematically, but our top flight status has been secured for another year. Isaac Hayden and also Jamal Lewis, they're both out of the Premier League 25-man squad, but they are progressing fairly well. Isaac Hayden could be back on the training pitches from next week, and Eddie Howe said a decision on his future will be determined, by what he does on that training pitches. For Jamal Lewis, he's had another operation. Hopefully, fingers crossed, this will rectify this ongoing groin issue that's been happening now for around about 13 or 14 weeks. Jurgen Klopp spoke ahead of the Merseyside derby. Again, no fresh injury concerns from that battering that they give Manchester United on Tuesday night. Roberto Firmino was absent from the squad after picking up a foot problem in the FA Cup just days prior to that Manchester City. Now, that foot condition is still a little bit painful, so there are no guarantees that he will recover. Jurgen Klopp was very non-committal. Basically, he's put it in the hands of Bobby Firmino. If he gives me a thumbs up, then he will be involved. If not, we would expect that to maybe a couple of days more, which would then give him a chance maybe for the Champions League. Now, Newcastle's opponents midweek, Crystal Palace, we saw Michael Olise forced off at around that 40-minute mark because of a foot problem. Initially picked that up playing for the French under-21s. Now, Palace have been off on Thursday and they're also off today. So players will not be assessed until Saturday, of course. They don't play Leeds until Monday night. So Michael Olise foot and also Luka Milivojevic hamstring. Those 2 players will be assessed. and their availability will be determined on Saturday and Sunday. For Aston Villa, Steven Gerrard is hopeful that Lucas Digne can still play some part this season, maybe in the last 2 games. We saw him forced off against Tottenham. It was actually his 3rd consecutive enforced withdrawal. This time, there was a fracture to the collarbone. He's had surgery. Now he's working away from the main group, gym-based activities at the moment. It's all non-contact stuff. So while he's doing a lot in terms of keeping those baseline levels of fitness up, there is nothing in terms of working with the team and contact and playing football. So Ashley Young will start on that left-hand side. Bertrand Traore, he's due for a scan on Friday after picking up a groin problem in training yesterday. And there's also, we know that Morgan Sanson has been ruled out. Don't know the specifics of that. And also Courtney House. That's an abdominal issue that seems to be going on much longer than initially anticipated. Ralph Rangnick and Manchester United hoping and needing a big result if they want to keep any Champions League qualification aspirations alive. Scott McTominay managing plantar fasciitis, painful ongoing foot problem, trained, no problem, fit and available. Cristiano Ronaldo returned to the group on Wednesday, fit and available. And we'll also see Rafael Varane back in that United squad this weekend. However, Paul Pogba, we've seen him replaced in and around that 10-minute mark on Tuesday night. That's a calf strain. Now, club doctors suggest that he'll be out for a minimum of 4 weeks, and therefore he may have played his last game for the club. Now, that impacted particularly in midfield with Fred also sidelined. That's a hip flexor problem. No mention from Ralph Rangnick today, but we do know on Tuesday he said that Fred may be around another 7 to 10 days. So that does give him a chance for that Thursday night double header with Chelsea. Moving on to what we got next. Luke Shaw, if I missed that one again, he's likely to miss out for the rest of the season. He had metalwork removed from his leg. That was a double compound leg fracture back in 2015. Initially had hoped to be around 2 to 3 weeks. Very, very optimistic given the type of procedure that he went through. While structurally, the long-term, there's a great prognosis. Initially, there will be a weakening of the bone. So typically, we're looking at maybe 6, 8, 9 weeks for that one to recover. So again, that puts him out for the season. At Leeds, Adam Forshaw, he was returning from a calf problem. Unfortunately, he took a whack on the knee, a heavy collision in training on Wednesday. That didn't improve throughout the session. They sent him for an X-ray, and that's revealed a hairline fracture of his patella or his kneecap. Now, Jess Marsh believes that this will probably keep him out for in and around 6 weeks. So again, it's season over for him. However, Calvin Phillips, now he's in a position to start. Of course, he spent several months on the sidelines following surgery on his hamstring. So there's a like-for-like replacement, and it'll be good to see Calvin Phillips back in that Leeds starting 11. Just a reminder, they don't play until Monday night at Selhurst Park. Also good news with regards to Patrick Bamford. He's training on the Alter G treadmill as it currently stands. Now, if you haven't seen our previous video, check that out to discuss what the actual Alter G is, and it's an anti-gravity treadmill. So you're not putting all your force, all your weight through that injury. Now, the hope is, or the expectation, that this goes well and he can progress to training outside from next week. Jess Marsh only referenced a couple of injuries there, which means the likes of Jamie Shackleton and Junior Firpo should be back in contention. Everybody else is pretty much as you were. For Arsenal, if Tommy Yasu comes through training on Friday and feels good, he's likely to be in the matchday squad. Ultimately, I can't see a start there. I don't really see many changes from Mikel Arteta as it happens following that 4-2 win at Stamford Bridge. Well, that would also mean Eddie Nketiah leads the line for the Gunners as well. Alexander Lacazette, of course, is coming off the back of COVID. He has trained and is feeling a lot better. But like I say, with these 2 goals and that performance midweek, Nketiah deserves that spot and to remain in that starting 11. For Manchester City, we discussed yesterday the problems in Pep's backline. And Guardiola was very non-committal with regards to his defenders' availability this weekend. We know that Kyle Walker has been managing an ankle problem since the Champions League tie against Atletico. He has improved and he has made some steps forward, and it's likely to be a late decision on his availability. If he misses out, and with the injury to John Stones, who had been complained of a muscle problem, it could mean that João Cancelo switches flanks with Zinchenko coming in on the left-hand side. Alternatively, there is a possibility there of going a 3 men at the back. That suggests that maybe Ruben Diaz could be back for his first start since recovering from a hamstring injury, alongside Aymeric Laporte. Nathan Ake, again, question marks over his fitness after he was forced off at half-time during the week. Understand that may be a slight ankle sprain there. David Moyes, again, not liking David Moyes' press conferences these days. He's not willing to give up much at all. He did confirm that Kurt Zouma and Issa Diop are both injured. They both have ankle ligament problems, but he refused to give any kind of timelines. Now, local media and press reports suggest that both players are at risk of missing the remainder of the season. However, David Moyes said he's not putting a time frame on it because he hopes that they're going to be back sooner than initially sort of anticipated. So that remains to be seen. Declan Rice is a possibility of dropping in to that back four. Otherwise, you could be putting maybe a back three with Kufal and also Cresswell in alongside Craig Dawson, who himself hasn't been without his own knocks and niggles, having broken his nose in the Europa League. For Everton, injuries keep on coming. No team has suffered more individual setbacks than Frank Lampard's men this season. We can add Donny van de Beek and Andre Gomez to that list now. Both of those players picking up problems in training. That comes on the back of an injury, another issue for Dominic Calvert-Lewin, another thigh-related problem that kept him out of the game midweek against Leicester. Now it looks as if he will be around 10 to 14 days away. So hopefully early mail is possible for a return for him. Chelsea, we know Mateo Kovacic ankle. Thomas Tuchel said he's hoping for a return within a couple of weeks. So maybe around 10, 12 days still to go for him. And also Antonio Rudiger. He was out of that Arsenal game because of a groin issue. And that's also going to keep him on the sidelines. Now, he mentioned originally at the time that it was minor. It was a slight issue. So that possibly gives him an outside chance of playing on Thursday evening. Now, he said that was it in terms of no other fresh injuries. We know Chilwell and Hudson-Odoi are both out long term. So that suggests that maybe Andreas Christensen is fit and available after he was forced off at half time during the week. Had a little bit of a nightmare there with that back pass giving away the open goal. For Wolves, Max Kilman, Daniel Podence, and also Ruben Neves all out of the game, but Bruno Lage will welcome Raul Jimenez back after he served a 2-match ban. With regards to Ruben Neves, slightly ahead of schedule and even an outside small chance of returning possibly in game week 35. If not, it will be game week 36. With regards to timelines on the others, we're not so sure. Big news coming out of Leicester is the return, or possibly the return, of Jamie Vardy. We know that last week Brendan Rodgers was hopeful that an injection in his knee could help ease those problems. He returned to the training pitches on Thursday. It looks as if he's come through that initial session fine. He will train again on Friday, and if there's no reaction, he will be in the squad. I would suggest that any minutes will come from the bench, but that's great news, particularly ahead of their Europa Conference League tie on Thursday. Back to Everton, I'm just going to go back. It's not an injury as such. Yerry Mina, he started his first game in over 2 months midweek. Question marks whether he's going to start in back-to-back games. You know, he's a big player for Everton, Merseyside derby, but Frank Lampard said, you know, we've still got another 5 to 6 games to go. So it needs to be managed given his injury problems. At Burnley, confirmation that Ashley Westwood has successfully undergone surgery. That was confirmed by Mike Jackson, who said the midfielder suffered a fracture dislocation in that challenge with last weekend. Now, In terms of the actual injury itself, very similar to what we've seen in recent times with Harvey Elliott and Andre Gomez. Both of those injuries kept those players out for around about 3 to 4 months return to play. So that maybe brings into question whether he can be, returned for the beginning of next season. It's certainly going to be tight, maybe back on the training pitches, but there may be lacking a little bit of sharpness and fitness for those early matches, particularly as the season kicks off a week earlier due to the World Cup in Qatar. Eric Peters, by the way, for Burnley as well, he's out on the training pitches and, according to Mike Jackson, is exactly where he should be. And finally, Brentford, a couple of updates here. Ethan Pinnock forced off last weekend with a hamstring problem. That's going to keep him out for around about 2 to 3 weeks. But the prognosis on Matthias Zanka Jorgensen is not as good. Unfortunately, his season is done. It's over. Frank Onyeka is still hopeful of playing some part in those remaining games. He is currently off crutches. He had picked up a problem playing for Nigeria. And like I say, there's still hope that he can maybe return in game week 37 or game week 38. And Sergio Canos is an outside chance, hamstring again, for game week 35. I think that's all for today. If you have any questions, please pop them in the box below or tag me in at Ben Dinnery on Twitter. And of course, you can always check out the injury table at www.premierinjuries.com. Have a great weekend, and we see you all again very soon.